nuts. Talk about stuff. About tough stuff. We're nuts. We're two tough nuts.
Still feel like it, you know? Still have this like rage.
And so that's exactly like where my mind space has been at lately. So I can think a lot about what you're, and congratulations again, dude. Like,
Thanks,
3 years sober is so hard, dude. Like, and I don't think people, unless they know, it's hard to know what that's like.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, dude, but it's like, for me, it's like, if not every day, then at least every other day where I really, really, really want to drink. And even more so, dude, it's like I think about, like, I just don't feel, like, I feel like something in me is missing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I've spent the last year, like, chipping off so many things of me that defined me for so long. And I know we talked about that with, like, career, but, like, drinking, smoking, and all this stuff. It's like you chip off all this stuff and you almost feel like,
What's left,
man? And what's left to give?
Yeah, and you said it best. We were on a podcast before. I think it was when you did your testimony. I think you have to kind of learn to live with your real self, and that's an interesting experience.
It's hard, man, especially when your real self like has been covered up for so long.
Yeah,
You
for
know
sure,
what I mean?
for sure.
So, like, but you said it, like, you've got this, like, you're feeling like a rage or something. Like, what's going on?
It's more. I know rage is kind of a trigger word. It scares people, especially women. But you know, it's more of being sober. I will say I'm in control of my emotions.
Yeah,
probably all the time except in the car.
Okay,
that's really the only time it really gets when I'm by myself, not with other people, but by myself. But I think it's my rage stems from the everyday suffering that does not end.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stems from, I'm reminded almost daily of my failures.
Okay.
As a parent and as a, you know, I guess you could throw Christian in there. I don't know how you want to word it, but I'll say I'm reminded I'm reminded of my failures living my life for myself, and I see the damage it did to innocent people.
Yeah.
And I own it, so I'm not a victim, but it's hard to, they always say, forgive yourself, make peace, let go. It's hard to make peace and forgive yourself when you are reminded of that shit every single fucking day.
Yeah, when it's in your face all the time.
I mean, every fucking day, dude.
So it's interesting too, man. So prior to getting sober and prior to like trying to just generally clean myself up and like face down the past and look forward to a future before I destroyed everything in my life. It's so weird because we were getting offers to, like, people wanted to film TV shows about what we were doing here in Nashville.
Yeah.
We were getting press and media and all this stuff.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I start like chipping away, cleaning this stuff up, fixing the life that's self-destructing.
Yeah.
All that goes away.
Yeah.
Like in a heartbeat, it was just all gone.
It's almost like the success leaves when you clean yourself up.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like, and so for me, like, one of the things I think about all the time is like, I mean, when I was a mess and drunk and not facing down what's like, you know, what's been haunting me my entire life and like trying to look forward to a better life and fixing relationships, spending time with kids, trying to be a good Christian and like a decent citizen of the world. Why all of a sudden is like all the successes that we've been building, why did all that go away? Like, that's really frustrating.
You know, I want to say this point real fast before I forget it, but I'm going to go back to the success because I can relate to that story. But I kind of today had this thought, and I think it's Paul that says this in the Bible, that you have to, you know, the old man you have to die to your flesh to live in the truth. And you almost have to like kill that old man to become the new man.
Yeah.
But for me, I got sober 3 years ago, and the year before I stopped drinking was a record year in sales. I was making killer money.
Yeah.
I was turning people away. I didn't advertise on Google, Facebook, or Instagram for almost 2 years straight because I couldn't take the business.
Yeah.
My wife at the time had a great job, so financially we were fine.
Yeah.
I saw my daughter every other week, like I was supposed to. I had her at the house 7 days, and I saw my son every single day. I had a group of people that I could go hang out with, go let off steam. Now, granted, I did it usually in an unhealthy way, but I had that social net community. Yeah. I wasn't in church, so that's not good at all. But I had, like, if you put my life on paper and take away the destructive behavior as a drunk, it all pretty much was like, hey, that dude's
he's doing it.
My goal was to retire when the business hit 10 years. I hit my 10-year mark this April. I'm not retiring anytime soon, man. There's no way. There's no way. But that was my goal, like, because I wanted to be, since Jacob's so young, I wanted to retire, basically be with him, and then do something part-time just to offset my ex's job because she had a great job. I mean, that's what was going to work, but I was going to be in a position where I didn't have to go get up at 3 and train 50 hours a week, because I could be like, hey, man, we're good. Like, I wasn't living to be a millionaire or anything. I mean, I wanted to have money to be able to support the kids and stuff. But, like, I don't know, dude, it's weird. As soon as I got sober, it all started to kind of, like, as I cleaned up my personal life, clients started dropping, and couldn't get leads. Of course, the house was imploding because I didn't know it was at the kickstart of the demise. But it was like everything started to kind of just go. And I thought, well, I surrendered to Christ, so that's why this is happening. But I thought it would level off at some point. And I'm very fortunate. Like, I am blessed, and I don't want it to sound like I'm not, but I don't know, dude. It's hard for me to stay positive sometimes.
No, I'm with you, man. And one of the things I think about a lot is you're exactly right. You expect it to level off. You expect to kind of go through a valley in a season. But it's hard, man. It's hard to look around and say, okay, like, how long is this valley here? You know what I mean? Like, where's the end of this valley at?
I will say this, though. So, from the Christian point of view, when I started the business, Steve Moore started that business.
Sure.
Not anybody else.
Yeah.
I started it. I had help. My ex had a job, so I was able to start
to do it
grassroots, But the whole time I was in the position, I didn't pray about work. I didn't try to honor God. I didn't talk about God at work unless I knew the person and it was something vague. But what I started doing when I got divorced was give the business to God.
Yeah.
I trust you. I know if I start losing people, and I haven't shared this yet. I forgot to say this in the testimony. So the neighborhood we're in right now, I've told you this story. I had 4 days to find a house when I got divorced. 4 days. Mom and dad offered me a place to live, but I didn't want to move back home.
Yeah.
I didn't want to move back home with 2 kids. So I rented a townhouse in this neighborhood. I found it in 4 days, and I harassed a real estate agent, and I luckily I got in there.
Yeah.
And and then lo and behold, I was able to buy a house a year later on the same exact street.
That's amazing.
But I had to get my dad to co-sign.
Oh, right on.
He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it the first time around when I was renting, because I tried to do the same thing. But I prayed on it. And I always joke. I said, God loves this neighborhood because he wanted me to be in here. My dad, without hesitation, co-signed on this house because we're both small business owners.
Yeah.
I didn't have tax returns. I had the income, but I didn't have a tax return. So they were like, we can't give you a home loan. Yeah. So he co-signed. So I try to stay grounded in that. I'm like, okay, business is not where I want it to be. It is picking up again, but, like, dude, he gave you this house for a reason.
Yeah.
But so when I talk about rage, it's more me getting sober. I don't see my daughter hardly at all. I see her maybe every couple months, and she's in Cool Springs. She's not far away. Her high school is right up the next exit. Yeah. I see my son every day, which I'm very fortunate for that, but I don't have the time with him like the night. We ate dinner last night together, which is awesome. I don't get to do that.
Yeah.
It's the it's the small things that you don't think about, or I didn't.
It's easy to take for granted day-to-day tasks, and when you don't have those day-to-day tasks, they're super impactful.
Yeah, man. You don't realize like how much time you miss, man. Like you don't realize how important dinner time is. You know, reading stories at night,
Dealing with a nightmare.
Yeah.
I can empathize, not because I'm in that position, but because I traveled so much with my last job.
Yeah.
And I missed all of that, for a decade.
Right.
And so I truly understand what that feels like, to just feel that missing time. I know we've talked about, like, I just said it, like, you just get that like nagging, like, God, if you just had a drink, you could just.
Yeah, it's sitting in the pain, man. It gets old.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. And all the stuff that we talked about with Will, go to the gym, go for a walk, journal. I mean, that's all great stuff, but you still got to face it head on.
Yeah.
You can't run from it. And when you're drinking, you don't face it.
Yeah. You're not.
It doesn't help it, but it masks it. And I think the hard part of being sober is you just sit in this, it's like a vicious cycle, man. Like not every day's bad, but I mean, I'm more
bad days are dark.
I'm more humble now. And so when something doesn't go the way I think it should go, maybe in co-parenting, I don't cause a rift, man. I eat it, and it's hard, dude. Cause we talked about this earlier. I mean, you're learning almost a new way to live because you were so used to being a certain way. That way may not have been the right way or the healthy way, but you're having to reprogram your brain how to, I pray a lot just to maintain, composure and not speak when I shouldn't speak and use discernment. But, it's just like, dude, it's like, I always laugh with some of my friends. I'm like, God, I need a smoke break. Like I want a 15-minute smoke break. I just need a day where I don't have to deal with some dumb shit.
Yeah.
Just fuck, man. I need a break.
It's exhausting.
And the training and the working out, like, yeah, I love it. It's great. But dude, they don't do shit for me when it comes to this stuff. Yeah. It just doesn't. I hate to say that, but I will feel worse if I don't work out.
For sure.
When I'm in the workout, I mean, it's not like, oh man, I feel so great. I'm like more amped up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like,
yeah, then it really gets the juices flowing.
Yeah. So
starts peaking.
So my goal, and I had a talk the other day with a really good friend, is I need a creative outlet that's not physical.
Sure.
Because everything I do is physical. I need something where I can turn my brain off and just not think about stuff, whatever that is. But, something that I think that would help. But, and I don't want this podcast to be negative. I'm going to, try to bring it up a little bit.
Look, I don't think you're being negative. I think what people don't realize and what nobody talks about, and this is something that bothered me when I was trying to quit drinking, and I was trying to like even fathom what that would even be, like, just the depression that hits of like, well, what am I supposed to be feeling here? Because I don't feel optimistic.
Right.
And I don't feel good.
Right.
All these things. Everybody talks about like, well, you're going to be so much more healthy and like you're going to start dealing with your things and you're going to start facing them and it's going to be okay. Nobody talks about like
the joint pain.
That's real. Nobody talks about the emotional impact of not numbing your brain.
Yeah, man.
And nobody talks about, this isn't victim stuff here. We did it to ourselves, right? Whatever damage is done,
we're owning it.
We did it.
Yeah, we're owning it.
But like, dude, you got to like live with that and you got to face it down. Nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a disservice to like, it's not being negative. Look, overall, like if you were truly being negative, I'd say, let's just shut it down and go get a drink right now. Right? Like,
yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah.
But a bad day is a bad day, dude. And when they hit, like I said, it gets dark.
Yeah.
It can.
But the weird thing is for me, man, I don't have these strong urges to drink. And I shared, Sunday I had a wave, and I haven't had one of those in a long time, but I was able to, like, within 15 seconds, like, no, dude, you don't want that. And I know, like, alcohol took so much, even though sobriety is taken from me too. But I know that path for me personally, what alcohol did.
Yeah.
Now, I own it. It was my decision, but me drinking is not going to help anything.
Sure.
It's going to make it worse. And I know me and Jacob pray about this. We've had a lot of good people, like you're one of them, that came into my life through sobriety. And so before, I was surrounded by just a lot of negative energy. I projected that
for sure,
and I've always kind of been.
You've been a magnet for
yeah, man. So, like, even as a person that's been sober, I mean, I've had people here recently that were, I thought, for the most part, good for me in my life, that have kind of Audi 5000. I'm like, man, that's weird, and it's funny, but I know, like, there's this process you go through as you grow, and we've talked about this, we've discussed it with Will. You're just going to keep shedding friends or weight, man.
Sure.
It's I want to say this too. I'll let you talk, because I don't want to interrupt you. Sobriety's lonely.
Yeah.
I am more lonely now on certain days than I was before.
Yeah.
Even though I was lonely and I would drink to numb it, but dude, it is weird. It is, and I like myself enough to, like Jason was talking about, being by yourself.
Be with yourself.
I'm comfortable with myself, but it's when Jacob's not here, man, it's very just, I don't know how to explain it, man. It's like this heavy weight.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I think about a lot is, like, I call it boredom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one.
Well, because it's just like, I mean, I'm either going to sit here and, like, deal with everything, or, I'm going to try to pacify time, or I'm going to do whatever. And, like, I do a lot of little creative things, and I like playing around with stuff, but alcohol was always such a companion almost to everything that I did, either socially, alone, like watching a movie, hanging out on the front porch, like whatever it was a constant companion.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you lose that, like, you're dropping it off,
Yeah.
And obviously it's a destructive companion, but I got irritated at a friend of mine because he's like, it's a spirit, dude. And they call it spirits for a reason.
I've heard the same thing.
I got irritated at him because I'm like, that's so stupid, dude.
Yeah. The devil made me do it.
But I think there's something to it deep down, is like, there is probably, even if it's just a metaphorical spirit of, like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
See, then I go back to Jesus' first miracle when he turned the water into wine in a wedding, and those people were getting shit. Well, I shouldn't say it with Jesus in a sense. They're getting wasted, man. It's like, I think at the end of the day, it's the
Bible says it, dude. Like, you can drink, but don't get drunk.
Don't get drunk. Well, you can be angry, but don't sin when you're angry.
Sure.
Which that's pretty hard to do when you're pissed off.
Yeah, dude, but there's, like, righteous anger, and I think it's like, I think when you put yourself in a place of, like, completely numbing out and being inebriated to the point where, like, it just doesn't matter.
Right.
Sure. I'm sure you do invite some things in that'll take its place.
But here's a caveat to that. So I thought of this today. We talked about suicide with Jason.
Yeah.
And I've had my own experience with suicide. And I was thinking about this today. I don't know why. I think I was watching our podcast with Jason. The only times in my life where I've ever thought of it or got close enough to really do something, like very, very close, I was drunk. I mean, I was wasted.
For sure.
Never done it sober.
Yeah.
I've never, I remember I was on 65 one time, wasted, man. And I wanted to just
turn the wheel.
That Jerry, right? Just fucking nail it.
Yeah.
Back when I was in my 20s before I joined the Navy.
Yeah.
Because it was over a girl, but I was drunk.
Yeah.
But as a sober person, I wouldn't think that way.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I don't need to be drinking.
But it's one of those things, dude, like, I get it, dude. Like, when you say it's lonely, like, and that's, again, I think it's good for people to just understand too. It's like, there's levels of there's more positives than negatives to being sober.
Yeah.
And not having an addiction.
100%.
And I'm not saying like, we've said it before. I'm not saying if you like going home and having a cocktail or you're out with friends and you have a beer together, like I'm not against it. I don't care, dude. Like I don't care what
I'm not against that either.
I don't care what you do. I don't care if you can drink and be cool. I know for me, I'm a bulldozer, dude, and I just don't know how to stop. And for a long time I felt more like me, like my best version of myself if I had a cocktail in me.
Yeah.
And so, like, finding myself without that, that's hard, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
especially in a social environment.
And, like, just even, like, working on the computer and doing just tedium of, like, balancing the finances for the business.
Yeah.
Or whatever, dude. Like, looking at social media for the podcast and stuff is, like...
Yeah.
This is, like... So when you say it's lonely, for me, like, I feel that, but I also feel it probably in a different sense. I feel it because it's, like... I'm doing a lot alone and I'm working through a lot alone and my wife is great. I can talk to her about everything. So it's not that. It's just at the end of the day, a boxer is in the ring by himself. The coach has coached him, gives him advice in the corner.
Yeah.
The cut man's fixing him up.
That's a good analogy.
But when the punches start landing, the coach isn't blocking the punch for him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You gotta just deal with it.
And that's a good thing too about being sober. Like I have a healthy relationship, so I can talk to Shelly about anything and be vulnerable, and I can do that in any frame of mind. So whether I'm having a good day or a bad day, or as before, I just would have stayed quiet and got drunk, or just kind of went off, or gone out and not think about it. And I think I like what you said about the loneliness. It's really the boredom piece. And it's trying to find activities that you would have done before that revolved around drinking. Now you're trying to find stuff that doesn't involve drinking.
That's right.
And it's tough, man.
It's tough.
And I can't sit here and list off a bunch of shit that, this is so much fun when you're sober. Like even Top Golf, dude. I've been there one time and I was pissed drunk, like Caddyshack. It was awesome. That was my last birthday. So I turned 42. So it would have been a month before I quit drinking. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
But I was drunk as shit. Went down to Nashville and drank all day. It was great, dude. But I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's just hard, dude. And it also puts you in a frame of mind like like you and I could go to Top Golf and probably have a good time.
Yeah, totally. If you're with the right people.
You're with the right people. But like even some of my best friends, like what would we do if we were all hanging out? Because like the thing that we've always done is
sit in a circle and talk about our feelings.
Exactly. Like I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So it changes like the dynamic of how you just interact with the world around you, dude. And I told my sister this the other day. She listened to our podcast and she was like texting me, and I said, that's honestly like the hardest thing is just like facing down so many things from the past and the present too.
Yeah.
Without a crutch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. But it's like, that doesn't make us, she's like, you're so strong for even talking about it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's like the weakest.
I don't think it's weak. I mean, I see why you would say that. Because I used to think
weak, bro.
I used to think when people could drink, like, that's fucking lame.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what a bitch. Like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, yeah, it does take a lot of strength. I'm going to put my foot on the mouth, though. But,
I'll say it, dude, because honestly, like,
it's not weak, man. And I told you this when you did it, man. It takes fucking balls to share stuff, especially on a platform where people we've never even met are going to watch it. And
I think my give a shit just broke.
But the thing is, the way I see it, but the thing is, dude, like that's gonna resonate with somebody out there, and it could be somebody that maybe has a similar experience that you had, and it might give them hope. And I try to remind myself that, but I lose sight of it because I get embarrassed about, like, I can talk about you all day, but when it comes about me, like, I'm going to do a post about me being sober. Yay! Yeah. And I'm just like, did I do this? I don't really want the attention. And then I'm like, no, like we said earlier tonight, I'm like, I should probably do it because it's 3 years, a big deal.
It's a big deal. It is a big deal. 3 years is tough, dude. I talk about business a lot with folks. I was talking to an entrepreneur who's like, had several very successful companies. He's older. He's retired now. And he asked me, he's like, how long have you had your company? I said, this is the start of the 5th year. So I've had it for 4 years. This is the first month of the 5th year.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have, I know you know this. And he said, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, because it's hard to start a business. It's even harder to hold on to.
Right.
Well, that ain't nothing compared to dropping an addiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To drop it's one thing.
I don't know, man. I know it's harder. I know something's way harder. Way harder.
But it is hard, dude.
It's hard, but I think for me, the reason I was successful is because the divorce was way harder than not drinking.
For sure.
That was way harder, man.
Yeah.
And I'll say that all day.
But I don't think you're giving yourself credit on that. I know how I am. Dude, I'd be sleeping on your couch if I was in that position.
Like sober?
Huh?
What do you mean if you were like me?
If I was going through a divorce, I'd either be on your couch.
Yeah.
Or
you'd be in the kitchen cooking is what you'd be doing. Exactly. You'd be making donuts.
Or I'd be stumbling around piss drunk.
Yeah.
That's the reality. But you didn't do that, dude. You raw dog sobriety through the hardest.
Our older viewers won't understand that. I looked at our numbers. We have some older viewers. They won't get that one.
Well, awesome. It's a range. But
yeah,
you went through that with
But you got to remember too, man, I appreciate the kind words, but I am and I still struggle with my ego. I'm an ego-driven person. You tell me I can't do something,
you got to do it.
I'm going to do it. And I knew that was one of the motivating factors that I'm going to catch this dude slip. No, you ain't. And I almost said this today and I stopped. I was going to put it on that post. I'm trying to clean up my language real quick. All those jokers out there that are still sitting back and waiting. It ain't going to happen. I'm not going to fail. I'm going to stay the course. I may only be 3 years into this thing, but I ain't going to give in, man. And I know there's some cats out there that are, maybe that's me with an inflated ego, but I still got some people I want to prove wrong. And, guess what? I ain't going to fail.
Tough nuts. We're tough.